I welcome you for the first session on the audit of cooperative societies. Now, when we do the cooperative audits, first and foremost thing what we do is we are looking for the appointment, correct? When we are doing the audit, we have to see whether we are eligible to carry out the audit. The first thing that we do is the appointment of the auditor. And the second is, once we do the appointment, the next step that important is what? We get the appointment letter, we do everything, then we go for the documentations. That means documents to be collected from the society, document to be collected. Now what are the documents to be collected? That could be the second step. Once the document is collected, then the audit starts. Audit means nothing but the examination of the books of accounts, records maintained by the society. And the last step is, once the inspection, everything is done, then of course we can ask for the explanation, so that whatever you have noticed in the audit, whatever the remarks or whatever the shortcomings, observations you are done in the audit, that you can call for the explanation from the societies. And once the explanations are given to you, the next step would be to, once the explanation is completed, received from the society, the next step would be to prepare the audit report. Of course, once you prepare the audit report, you will discuss with the management. This audit report also will be discussed, so that if there is any shortfalls, that can also be incorporated. Once the audit report is done, that of course will be placed before the general body. Normally it is the AGM, annual general body meeting, in which it will be kept. And thereafter, once the audit is kept in the general body meeting, whatever observations we have done or the remarks that we have pointed out in the audit report, that need to be rectified. So once this is rectified, we also file O form, that is audit rectification report. So this is the cycle of the audit. So now, if this is the cycle of the audit, then we need to understand from where all this cycle comes in. So naturally all these are coming from the what is known as our M.C.S. Act, because ultimately we are only restricting ourselves to the Maharashtra Cooperative Societies Act and the audit of a housing society. So therefore, whatever we need to do, whether all these are coming from the what is known as Cooperative Societies Act. So today what we will do is, I will only today list down the important sections in the M.C.S. Act. Next 1 hour, what is related to the audit, and what is connected to the housing society audit, what are the sections and the rules which are applicable, and based on that rules and applicable, next time when we are going to do the session, I would request you to come out with the what is known as the explanations on the bylaws. So when we do the audit, we carry on with the M.C.S. Act. We also look into the M.C.S. rules. Today I will only deal with the M.C.S. Act and M.C.S. rules. As a homework, you can relate to bylaws. And of course, there is something called the regulations, that is directions. Even the directions also need to be looked into. So with this background, now let me once again repeat the appointment of the auditor, provisions related to the appointment, the activities that we need to do as an auditor, the activities that need to be done by the society. So this is what we need to look at the first appointment. Then the documents to be collected. That means we have to give a list as an auditor, we have to give a list to the society. Society will provide us the required documents. And then what are the activities that we need to do, and the society level as an auditor what we need to do, as a society what they need to do. If there is any shortcoming or there is any further documents required, you can still tell them. Then of course you carry out the audit of the documents that they have given. When we do the audit of a Cooperative Society Act, the very important is, when we look at the audit, we always say that it's only books of account. Books of account. So this books of account is not the only audit that you need to do. You also need to do the administrative audit. When I say administrative audit or the legal audit, what means is the breaches of the provisions of the M.C.S. Act, rules and bylaws, regulations, or the directions, circulars, or the violations of the general body decisions, all that need to be looked into. So it is not only doing the audit of books of account. So normally what we misunderstand is that we have to do only accounts audit. No, it is not the only accounts audit. As far as M.C.S. Act is concerned, we have to go beyond. We have to also look at the administration. So examination of the books of account and the compliance of various requirements under the M.C.S. Act. Then of course we can call for the explanations. Once you make the queries or what is your findings, you can ask for the explanation. If something can be rectified, yes, you can get it rectified. And then after the rectification is done, you can prepare a draft audit report. After the draft audit report is done, it is discussed with the committee. Committee gives the approval, and then of course it is placed before the general body. Once the general body approves, then within 3 months you have to prepare audit rectification report. This is the cycle of audit in short. So everything is related to the M.C.S. Act. Now let us go to the next step. As I was saying, we need to look into what are the sections and the rules which are relevant for the audit purpose. As I said, today we will only deal with the sections, and then those sections also you need to get into the reading of the M.C.S. Act, read the M.C.S. rules, and then only you will be able to understand thoroughly as to what need to be done. So I'll just present that. Now you are there. Which is the main section on which appointment is done? Can anyone tell me? Appointment of the auditor is done under which act? Which sections of the M.C.S. Act? Of course, appointment is done under the M.C.S. Act. Under which sections of the M.C.S. Act cooperative society auditor is appointed? Any idea? Which is the section under which auditor is appointed? मालूम होगा ना? Section 81 of the M.C.S. Act gives you the provisions about the appointment of the auditor. So, what are the important provisions under the M.C.S. Act? First provision, before I get into the important provisions of the M.C.S. Act, have you seen, how many of you have seen this book? You have seen. Anybody else? No. This is the audit manual prepared by the Cooperative Department, Government of Maharashtra, published in the year 2018. Okay. Now, this audit manual gives you the entire working or how the audit has to be done. Whatever the cycle of the audit that I have talked about, from the appointment till the audit rectification, whatever the stages I have discussed, it has been described in detail, including every step. It was talking about act, it is talking about rules, it is talking about bylaws, it is talking about circulars issued from time to time, including how the audit report has to be prepared, the required format. So everything is available in the audit manual. As the manual means what? Manual means the procedure, standard operating procedures which need to be carried out is given in the manual, including certain specification of the forms. So everything you will have in this cooperative audit manual, and I was fortunate enough to be part of this committee constituted by the government. Now let us come to the Section 24A, Contribution to Cooperative Education and Training. Section 24A of the M.C.S. Act talks about the contribution to be made by the members of the society and also the education and training that has to be imparted to the members of the housing society. So, as an auditor, because as I said, audit includes two aspects. One is the accounting aspects, another is the legal aspects, or we can call it as the administrative aspect. Okay, you may say that if contribution is received, it is accounted in the books of account. If it is not received, it is not accounted. If there is a training imparted, that will be shown in the vouchers and it will be shown as expenses. If the training is not given, that will be shown in the fund. That is what I am as an auditor supposed to look into. The answer is no. If those are done, yes, as a part of the accounts, we will definitely observe those things. But as an auditor, as I said, we also need to look at whether the legal aspects, what is required to be done under the law has been done or not. That is called compliance. Whether the society has done the required compliance under the M.C.S. Act. That is what we look into. So the contribution of education and training is one of the compulsory aspects. Even for a cooperative housing society, this particular section may not be applicable. It is 154B8, which we will look into little later. But Otherwise, it is a contribution to cooperative education and training should be looked into. Second is no appropriation. This is very important sections as far as accounts are concerned. That M.C.S. Act, section 64, no appropriation of net profit distributed among members other than dividend and bonus. That means other than the dividend and bonus, nothing else can be given to the members. So if the society has given anything other than the bonus and the dividend, that means it is a violations of the M.C.S. Act, and that need to be reported, because once the payment is done to the members, we come to know that it has to be either a dividend which is given by the society by passing an appropriate resolution in the general body, and secondly, it can be the bonus. Now, very important thing, whenever any payment is made by the society, it has to be approved either in the managing committee or in the general body. Now, when it is approved in the general body or the managing committee, as the case may be, you have to look at whether that managing committee who has done the appropriation, whether they are capable or they have got the capacity to do, whether they have the power to do such distribution in the managing committee itself. If the dividend has to be distributed, that has to be done in the general body. If the bonus has to be given, it has to be given in the general body. So without the general body resolution, that cannot be done. We may come across certain situations where the managing committee or the board of directors do this type of decisions. Yes, they can do the recommendation, but the final approval has to be in the general body. So as an auditor, we need to look into not only the accounting aspect, how the money has come in, how the money has gone, whether there is a proper supporting or not, even the legal compliance. When I talk about legal compliance, as the provisions of the act has been complied with, whether required procedure has been complied or not. Where the required procedure is given, required procedure is given in the rules or sometimes by way of a circular. So we'll look at the various rules. Section 64. Now I have only given you the glimpse of the sections today. And as a homework, you need to go through these sections, and if possible, I would suggest you that please note down this in a notebook and get it. At home, you go through the act, at least write it in handwriting and not in the computer, because you may cut paste and do it. So next time we will get it written from you, so that at least whatever we are doing study here, it gets in your mind. So the contribution to education and training, second is appropriation, which has to be done in the general body. And now, as far as housing society is concerned, whether the dividends are distributed, the answer is no. Normally, dividends are not distributed in the housing society. But whether the bonus is issued, whether the bonus is paid, the answer is yes. There are few housing societies where the bonus is given. Now, what is this bonus? This is not the bonus which is given under the Bonus Payment Act. Okay, Employees Bonus Payment Act. It is not under that. This is a bonus which is the activity which is done by the society, and because of that there is certain surplus, and that surplus is distributed to the members in the ratio of their contribution. In other words, for example, I give you some example. There is something called, in a cooperative society, we put a telephone tower, telecommunication tower. The moment you put a telecommunication tower, naturally you get certain remuneration in a year, maybe 10 lakhs, 15 lakhs in a year. And out of that, there is a government circular also that 50% of the money has to be put it in the society's fund, and 50% has to be given in the form of bonus to the members equally. That means it is distributed equally to the members. There is a circular to that effect. Have you seen this circular? Are you aware of this circular? No. So the telecommunication, there is a government circular which you can take it from Santosh, and that it says that any telecommunication income that is generated by the society has to be 50% has to be retained in the society, and 50% has to be distributed to the members. When you distribute, it can be a credit in the bill also, but it has to be given. So this is how the bonus aspect is discussed. Now another example of the bonus is the, naturally, bonus is something, the benefit that is accruing. Can you tell me there is a bonus or a benefit accruing in the at the time of redevelopment. Now, at the time of redevelopment, there is something called corpus, there is something called extra area which is given. Now, how that is nothing but a bonus which is received at the time of redevelopment, because some activity has been carried out by the society. So, therefore, there also it is distributed in the ratio of their existing built up or carpet area. What is the carpet area that they are occupying? In proportion to that, the area is given. Are you aware of this? Suppose in the redevelopment, what happens? The people get 10% extra area, or 20% extra area, 30% extra area. This extra area is nothing but a bonus which is accruing to them at the time of redevelopment, and this is done in the ratio of their contribution originally done in the construction of the building. What is originally done by them? That means existing area. Where somebody has got 500 square foot, that means he has contributed for 500 square foot construction cost as well as the land cost. So, if somebody has got 1000 square foot, that means he has constructed towards 1000 square foot of land cost as well as construction cost, and therefore, that is a contribution they have done in the capital of the society, and that is how the bonus or the benefit corpus at the time of redevelopment is distributed under section 64 under that. Similarly, ascertainment of the net profit loss as per provisions of rule number 49. That means section 65 subsection 1 says, when you are ascertaining a surplus, when you are ascertaining the profit, when you are ascertaining certain thing, it has to be done in the manner prescribed. In the manner prescribed. So that means we as a chartered accountant, as an auditor, it is our responsibility to find out what is the net surplus or the profit or the loss incurred during the year. When we are doing that profit and loss or the surplus income and expense account, we also need to look into the provisions made in the rule 49. So the rule 49 describes, gives in the manner prescribed. So that means now I am relating to 65. You have to go through section 65. Then you have to also go to rule number 49. So both need to be looked into. Now let us get into 65(2). Section 65 subsection 2. Appropriation of, see, this is ascertainment of the profit. Are you with me? In a profit and loss account, there is something called above the line, below the line. So ascertainment of the surplus or the profit or a loss is under section 65(1). After ascertaining the profit, naturally the next section comes, or the next thing comes, is about the appropriation. Appropriation means distribution. So whatever profit that we are making, that need to be distributed among the members or in the manner prescribed in a particular section. So therefore, the appropriation net profit as per the rules and bylaws and AGM approval essential. So once you make certain surplus, that surplus need to be distributed or appropriated. It is called appropriation. Appropriation means certain profit need to be, as you may be aware that we are transferring 25% of the surplus to the reserve fund. That is under section 65(2). So therefore, how the appropriation, once you ascertain the profit, how it has to be appropriated by going through the relevant bylaws and rules need to be looked into, and that requires the approval of the general body. So that means whenever any expenses are made, not only you need to look into who is the approving authority, who has approved that expenses, is there the managing committee who has approved, is the general body who has approved any expenses, and then there is a supporting. If there is no such resolution supporting that expenses or something has been incurred, that need to be reported. Then comes contribution to public charitable purposes. Section 69 talks about, even if the society wants to give certain fund to the charitable organization, then of course it can be given, but that cannot be more than 20%. Section 66, that is cooperative education and training, which is now replaced with section 24A. So next section, let us look at the investment. Now when you have a funds in a society, naturally those funds need to be invested, and that money which is there as a surplus, that need to be invested in a fund or in the in the various assets which are mentioned under section 70. Section 70 of the M.C.S. Act gives the guideline or makes it compulsory that the fund has to be invested in a prescribed manner only. What are those funds where it can be invested? One is the M.C.S., that is Maharashtra State Cooperative Bank, or District Central Cooperative Bank, DCCB, Maharashtra State Cooperative Bank or District Central Cooperative Bank awarded A audit class in the last consecutive 3 years. That means if the last 3 years audit, that particular society, bank, if they have a audit class, then only you can invest them. Suppose when the investment is done, you have to check up whether this is any bank, cooperative bank, if they are investing, or MCC, MSC or DCCB, District Central Cooperative Bank, whether they have the A audit class in the last 3 years, that need to be looked into. Then you can also invest, as a society can invest securities like government bonds, debentures, shares, specified under section 20 of the Indian Trust Act 1882. That means you need to look into Indian Trust Act. Under section 20, latest provision allows you to invest in the mutual fund. So you need to look into which is the mutual fund where you can invest. It is not that in a mutual fund which is related to equity shares, you cannot. But if there are certain mutual funds which are called as a debt funds, government debt funds, then only it can be invested. Then next comes shares or security, bonds or debentures issued by any other limited society or having the same classification, also you can do the investment. Any other mode permitted by the rules or by general or special order in behalf by the state government. Section 70 subsection D talks about, clause D talks about investment can be done in the any mode or in any place where you can, what is known as which is permitted by the government. So the government has come out with this circular somewhere on 5th December 2013 that the society can invest the money in the nationalized bank. So it does not talk about anything else, but in this provision it says the societies can invest the fund even in the nationalized bank. Now section 71. If employees less than 20, society may establish employee provident fund, invest in it separately. Otherwise, Employees Provident Fund of Society employees governed as per the Employees Provident Fund Act 1952. So section 71 talks about investment in the case of Employees Provident Fund. So next is section 71A, funds not to be utilized for the proceedings or against the officers in the personal capacity. What happens in a cooperative housing society or in a cooperative society? Sometimes certain actions are initiated against the committee. Debarred. They may be removed from the committee. Administrator may be appointed. Authorized officer may be appointed. There can be inquiry under section 83. There can be inquiry under section 78 or 88, 146. 146 means offences. Something fraud or something wrong has been done by the committee. In that case, action is initiated. Now the question arises, because they are holding the office of the society as office bearers of the society or committee of the society, can they use the funds of the society? The answer is absolutely no. As an auditor, if there is any inquiry during that year, you need to see whether the resolution or the something has been passed wherein they appointed the audit advocate to defend these matters, which is initiated individual capacity. If there is any actions which is initiated under the individual capacity, then that action can be defended by those individuals in their individual capacity, but they cannot utilize the funds of the society. And if that has been done, that need to be reported. Similar section 81(1)(a), complete audit within a period of 4 months. Section 81(1)(a) gives us the terms and conditions of the appointment. Who is the auditor, when it should be completed, all this is given under section 81(1)(a). So naturally, section 81(1)(a) says audit has to be completed within 4 months from the close of financial year. Now 81(1)(e), the auditor's report shall have. So I said once you appoint the auditor, naturally after completing the audit, he has to give the report. Section 81(1)(e), 81(1), subsection 1, clause E, the auditor report shall have. What it says is all the particulars of the defects or the irregularities observed in the audit. So the audit report should contain all the defects that you have noticed in the books of account, in the management of the society, in non-compliance of certain provisions of the Act, rules and bylaws, and the government circular issued from time to time. In case of a financial irregularities and misappropriation or embezzlement, financial irregularities, there is a difference between irregularities and embezzlement or fraud. Irregularity is something which was not supposed to be done, it has been done. But fraud is something which has been siphoned off, which has been defrauded, which means, for example, you are doing a repairing in a housing society exceeding 1 lakh rupees. Naturally, you need the approval of the general body. But without taking the approval of general body, if you have spent more than 1 lakh for the repairs, the amount has been spent, this is for the society, that means there is something called irregularities. This is irregularity, which was supposed to be done in a particular manner, which has not been done, it is irregular. Suppose there is a fixed deposit of 25 lakhs and the secretary takes away the 25 lakhs to his own account or misappropriates, that means he takes away to his own personal account, then that is a fraud. Without informing, with the bogus signature, he withdraws, he does, that is a fraud. So there is a difference between financial irregularity and a fraud. So misappropriation, embezzlement funds or fraud, the auditor or the auditing firm shall investigate the report, the modus operandi, how this audit, the fraud has been committed, what type of irregularity has been committed, everything has to be reported, the entrustment and the amount involved. Who is responsible to do this? Who has done that? What is the modality he has adopted? And what is the amount involved? That need to be reported. Accounting irregularities and their implications on the financial statement to be indicated in detail in the report with the corresponding effect on the profit and loss account. So if there is any misappropriation, what is the misappropriation done? Because of that, how much loss the society has incurred and to what extent the profit has reduced or increased, that need to be reported as far as section 81(1)(e) is concerned. Now, functioning of the committee and subcommittee of the society. The society has a managing committee, it can also have a subcommittee. If there is a subcommittee, if there is again a managing committee and a subcommittee and they have been given various responsibilities, and whether that responsibility has been done in a proper way, is there any violations which has been committed, that need to be reported. Duly fixing the responsibility for such irregularity and violations. If there are certain violations done, who is the person who has committed that irregularities? Today, again I am saying, only giving you the important sections so that next time you come prepared as to how these sections is applicable to housing society, what are the modalities that need to be done, what is not has been done, and how it has to be reported. So 3 things we need to check under each sections. Section 81(2) says the audit under subsection 1 shall be carried out as per the auditing standards. That means there is an auditing standard which is prescribed by the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. So Institute of Chartered Accountants of India has prescribed certain auditing standards, and these auditing standards, how the audit has to be carried out, that means there is a procedure which is laid down by the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, is also applicable to the cooperative societies. and shall also include the examination of the verification of following the items, namely, what are the examination that need to be done when you are doing the audit report? This should be the area which need to be looked into, which need to be, giving importance. One is overdues of the debt, if any. How much money is due? What is the overdue of the debts that need to be reported? Cash balance and securities. So if there is a cash balance, securities and valuation of the assets and liability of the society, that also need to be reported. Cash balance and securities and valuation of the assets and liabilities of the society. Loans and advances by the society have been properly secured and the terms are not prejudicial to the interest of the society and its members. What are the loans and advances which have been done that can be done? So, loans and advances made by the society have been properly secured and the terms not prejudicial to the interest of the society and its members. So, this is not applicable to housing society, but in the case of credit society, cooperative banks, this may be applicable. However, sometimes even a housing society gives the loan to its members. Sometimes they are giving, whether they have done in a proper spirit. Sometimes they give the loans to their employees, security guards, or this one. You need to look into book entries. Transactions are not prejudicial to the interest of the society. Means whatever the booking entries are done, that also should not be at the cost of the societies. That means it should not be against the interest of the societies. So book entries transaction not prejudicial to the interest of the society. If at all any transactions are made, whether they are against the interest of the society, need to be looked into. So this is all given in section 81. Section 81 further continues because section 81 is the heart of cooperative audit. Appointment, how the audit has to be done, what are the things to be examined, how the reporting has to be done, everything is given in section 81. So if you are able to dissect section 81 properly, then it becomes much easier. So section 81 continues, whether loans and advances made by the society have been shown as deposit. So if certain loans and advances are given to the employee, whether it is shown as a deposit, that means there is a misreporting. Similarly, whether personal expenses have been charged to the revenue account, if there is an personal expense of a secretary, whether that has been charged as expenses to the revenue account, whether the society has incurred any expenditure in furtherance of its objects. So there are certain objects of the society which is given in the bylaws, whether the society has incurred any expenses which is not in the furtherance of the business or in the furtherance of its objects, that need to be looked into. Whether the society has properly utilized the financial aid granted by the government, if there is a financial grant, whether it has been properly utilized, whether the society is properly carrying out its objects and obligation towards the members. This is very important. Whether the society is carrying out what is required to be done. So if they have not done it, that need to be reported. Section 81(5)(b) is about now report. So section 81(1) talks about what? Section 81(1) talks about appointment of the auditor. 81(2) talks about how the audit has to be carried out. What are the things to be looked into? 81(5)(b) talks about the auditor report. Auditor shall submit his audit report within a period of 1 month from its completion. That means within 4 months audit has to be completed. Thereafter within 1 month report has to be given. Now that audit report, there are special types of reports have been specified. One is called specific report, another is called special report. One is called specific report, another is called special report. That means in addition to the normal audit report, what we normally give, in addition to that, there has to be given a specific report and there has to be special report. What is specific report? What is special report? Specific report is something which is regarding the auditor concluded any person is guilty of any offence relating to the accounts or any other offences, he shall file a specific report to the registrar within a period of 15 days from the date of audit report. That means if you have found any fraud, misappropriation, misapplication, not the financial irregularities, specifically where there is a fraud, that means where there is a completely done against the interest of the society, money has been siphoned off, then there has to be specific report, modality is adopted, what he has done, how he has done, who is the person responsible, everything has to be reported. That is specific report. Now what is special report? Auditor concluded financial irregularities. I have already explained you what is specific report. Specific report is more connected with the fraud, cheating, misappropriation, not misapplication. Misapplication, misappropriation are two different things. Misapplication means, suppose I have received a sinking fund. Okay, instead of investing in the sinking fund deposit or an investment in the sinking fund FD, what I do, I use it for regular repairs without the general body. That is misapplication. Okay, I receive the property tax from the society members for paying the property tax. Instead of paying a property tax, I spend it because there is a still time to spend. In the month of, let us say, March, I can pay. But in the month of January, I have received the money and I need to immediately pay the electricity bill. So I pay the electricity bill out of the property tax. That is misapplication. This is misapplication. Misappropriation, fraud, cheating is something different. Misappropriation is something where you have appropriated illegally for your personal benefit. So misapplication is something called financial irregularities. You have received the sinking fund, but you, instead of investing, you have spent it in for regular salary payment. That is a financial irregularities. Fraud is something where you have done it for your personal use. So in that case, if there is a financial irregularities, then you have to give a special report to the registrar. Section 82, next section, 81 and 82 are very important sections, which next time we will discuss in detail. Rectification of defects in the accounts. The society shall prepare and submit the rectification report within 3 months from the date of audit report. There has to be audit rectification report. Now what we find audit rectification report and what is expected from the act is completely different. Audit rectification demands that once the auditor has pointed out some mistakes, that has to be rectified and given. For example, you have written the education and training fund has not been utilized, or education and training has not been conducted during the financial year. What it means? It means that within 3 months he has to impart the education and training, he has to give a certificate of completing the education and training and give it to the auditor, so that auditor accepts the rectification has been done, compliance has been done. Instead, the society gives in the audit report that we have noted and we will carry out education and training in the next year. No, not that. Suppose you have pointed out in the audit rectification, audit report, that mandated returns are not filed, income tax returns are not filed, the professional tax is not paid. If you have reported in the audit report that means within 3 months he has to comply with that. He has to complete the what is known as mandatory return he has to file. And then if income tax return is not filed, he has to file the income tax return, show the income tax return, and then you have said, yes, it is compliant. Then we can say that it is accepted. Okay. So as an auditor, what we can do is, once you point out certain defects, you also can say that within 3 months you have to complete this and incorporate in the audit rectification report. If you can give that suggestion in the audit report itself, education and training you have not conducted, then you say within 3 months from this report, complete the education and training and incorporate in the audit report, audit rectification report, and get it certified by the auditor. Are you getting my point? That suggestion can be included in our audit report so that it helps the society to carry out the report. Then section 82(3), it's the responsibility auditor, other auditor officer, his item wise remarks on the rectification report till entire rectification made by the society. That means it's the responsibility of the auditor to make the remarks, and if it is not compliant, then it should be continued year after year. Next, what the law says? Law says that once in a year, minimum 20% of the members should undergo the training. That means over a period of next 5 years, that all the members complete the training. Now this is the requirement of the law. Okay. Now what happens? Whether to come to that training or not to come to the training is the responsibility of that member. As a committee, they cannot do. But at least we should look into whether every year an attempt has been made, whether the circular has been sent to everybody, whether there is acknowledgement to that effect, and if they have not come, is there any reasons written there that they could not make it on so and so reason. So if those compliance is done, are you getting my point? What I am saying is, you are 100 members in the society. At least you see whether all 100 members have been informed about it. Is there an acknowledgement to the effect that you have invited them? Out of that, how many people have attended? If those who have not attended, whether they have been sent the minutes of the training or the notes of the training to them for their understanding. So if it all is done, then you can say that it is compliant. We cannot pull somebody and make them sit in the training. So therefore the government says, or the rule says, that 20% of the audit, members should be educated every year. Next. Section 146 is very important sections. Section 181(5)(b) talks about special report and specific report. In that also, it says if there is any offence committed. What is offence? Section 146 of the M.C.S. Act talks about what are the offence that is completed, and 147 gives us the penalty, okay, for the offence committed. Now, committee officer member of the society fails to invest funds of the society as per section 70. That means if the fund is required to be invested in a bank where there is a audit classification in the last 3 years, if they have failed to do that, or they have put in a cooperative bank which is not having or A class but B class, then they have committed offence. Any officer member of the society in a possession of the information books records fail to furnish it to the auditor. Suppose there is a committee who is not giving you the books of account what you have demanded, then they have failed to give the information to the auditor, so that means they have committed offence. Any person willfully disobeys any summons or requisition or lawful written order issued under section 81. As an auditor, we are also entitled, or we have got a power to issue the summons, and once you issue the summons, they have to obey it. If they don't obey, that means they have committed an offence. Similarly, committee society willfully makes a false return or furnish false information or fails to maintain the proper accounts, that is also fails to maintain accounts, that is an offence. All these need to be reported in what is known as irregularities, financial irregularities. Similarly, any officer, member, agent or servant of a society fails to comply with the requirements of subsection 4 of section 81. 146(L1), the committee fails to submit audit rectification report. So if the committee fails to give the audit rectification report, that is also there. Now M.C.S. rules. Let me now take you to the M.C.S. rules. Now what are these M.C.S. rules? Valuation of shares. Of course, this is not applicable to the cooperative housing societies, but other than the housing society, valuation of share happens. Okay. Borrowing limit is 10 times. Okay. So if the society has borrowed more than section 35, rule 35, then you need to report how much they can borrow, paid up capital, accumulated reserve, building fund minus accumulated loss of that 10 times. If the borrowing is more than that, it should be recorded because it becomes violation of section 35. Rule 49, writing off of bad debts. If there is a bad debts, the dues which are not recoverable, of course, it is more applicable to cooperative bank and credit societies. But in a housing society also, sometimes bad debts are written off, like interest which is not receivable. All the loans, interest and recovery charges which are found irrecoverable and certified as bad by the auditor appointed under section 81 shall first be written off against the bad debts if there is a bad debts fund, and balance if any may be written off against the reserve fund and then the share capital of the society. So how the bad debts has to be written off is given over there in rule 49. Next, all other dues, accumulated losses or any other loss sustained by the society certified as irrecoverable by the auditor may be written off against the reserve fund or share capital of the society, subject to prior approval of the general body. If the society is affiliated or indebted to certain things, it can be taken opinion from there. And then of course, In case of society classified A or B, if the time of last audit no such provision is required, if the bad debts are to be written off against the bad debts fund specially created for the purpose. So how the bad debts has to be written off is given here. You can also see the bylaws to that effect. Calculation of net profit, I told you rule number 49 talks about how to ascertain the net profit, how to ascertain the net loss or surplus. Calculate the profit by deducting the gross profit. All these need to be deducted from the gross profit. What has to be deducted? All interest accruing on the amounts overdue. All the interest accrued or accruing. If there is a bank, of course it is applicable over there. Interest payable on loans and deposits. Establishment charges, all administrative charges, audit fees, supervision fees, working expenses including repairs and maintenance, rent, taxes, depreciation, bonus payable to the employees under the Payment of Bonus Act. The bonus which I am talking about to the members of the society is different under section 64, and this is under the Payment of Bonus Act, that is different. Next, rule number 49 here continued. Provisions of Payment of Income Tax Act, amount to be earmarked as contribution to the cooperative education and training in terms of the fees which may be notified by the state government. Provisions for election fund and the expenses thereof. Provision for bad and doubtful debts, provision for share capital redemption fund, provision for investment fluctuation fund, provision for retirement benefit of the employees, provision for any other claims admissible under any other. All these need to be deducted. Thereafter only you have to arrive at the net profit. Next, provisions for bad debts and losses adjusted against any fund created out of the profits. Expenses and advertisement, propaganda and publicity relating to activities and the business of the society. Appropriation of the profit, rule 50 talks about, 49 talks about ascertaining the profit, rule number 50 talks about appropriation. The other purposes for which a society may appropriate its profit shall be education and enlightenment of the members of the society, as also any cooperative or charitable purposes including relief to the poor, education, medical relief and advancement of any other general public utility, provided that the expenditure of such item does not exceed 20%. Up to 20% of the surplus can be used for the charity. Next, net profit calculated appropriation in the provisions of rules shall be appropriate as per the creation, development fund, dividend equalization or other fund. Annual statement of account, rule number 61 talks about how the annual statement of account has to be prepared. These are the things which we prepare normally. Maybe you are not aware as to which is the rules, which is the act, which is the provisions under which it is done. Annual statement of account, committee shall prepare within 45 days annual statement of account. So the time limit given under rule number 61 is within 45 days. That means if 31st March is the year end, by 15th of May it should be completed. Account should be completed. Receipt and disbursement during the previous cooperative year, profit and loss account for the year, balance sheet at the close of the year. That means you have to prepare the trial balance or profit and loss account and balance sheet as well as receipt and payment account. A copy of thereof shall be submitted within 15 days from the date of preparation to the auditor appointed. That means by 31st of May, it should be given to the auditor. Form of the balance sheet, rule number 62(1) talks about what will be the form of the balance sheet. That is also prescribed in form number N. Then in rule number 65 talks about various books of account to be maintained, because the rules talks about what are the books to be maintained. Register of members in I form, list of active members in J1, the list of non-active members. Now only there will be J form, because J1, J2 is now done away with. Now active and non-active members is not there now. Register of shares, register of debentures and bonus, minutes book of the managing committee, general body, record of attendance of the general body meeting, minutes book recording proceedings of the committee meeting, subcommittee meeting, cash book, day book, bank book, general ledger, stock register, property register, register of records. See, property register X1 format is given. Register of auditors appointed their consent, register of audit objections and rectification, returns of the audit in form Y, and such other accounts and books specified by the government or the registrar from time to time. All these books need to be maintained. As an auditor, we need to look into whether all this is done. Appointment auditor for audit. Auditors shall submit in respect of cooperative banks. What is the audit format? Rule number 69 gives you the format. That is N1 is for the banks, and N2 is for other types of societies. An audit memorandum to the audit and the registrar and shall state whether in his opinion the best of his information and according to the explanation given to him accounting policies adopted by society as per the accounting standards has been done. The said accounts give all the information required by the act in the manner so required and give true and fair view. That means audit report has also a format has been given. It has to be in that particular format which is given in rule number 69. The audit memorandum shall state. What the audit memorandum will state? Audit memorandum says auditor has obtained all the information explanation. That means now as an auditor I am saying that all the information explanation has been received by me. I am certifying it. I am giving a report. To whom? To the registrar and to the members, because auditor is appointed by the members in the general body or by the registrar, and we are going to report to the members. So when we are reporting to the members, we are going to say that as an auditor, I have received all the information. In case you have not received the information, that means you are misreported. That means I will be held accountable and responsible. As an auditor, it is my responsibility to see that all the information required are obtained. Are you with me? So what happens is sometimes we don't get into that, but actually we should get all the information because we are certifying. Proper books of accounts have been kept by the society. What are the proper books? We have seen rule number 65. What are the books to be maintained? Rule number 65 we have seen. Cash book, ledger, day book, receipt book, all the registers, I form, J form, share register, investment register, mortgage register, everything is given. Even the return of various returns to be filed. Proper books of account, the balance sheet and profit and loss accounts are in agreement of the books of account. That means now whatever the figures that we have received in the profit and loss account are in agreement with the accounts. Accounting standards are adopted. The society has done according to the accounting standard. Rule number 65.5 says, where any of the matters referred to the subsequent rule 4 are answered in the negative or with the qualification, the audit memorandum shall specify the reasons for the same. If there is something which is negative, then you have to say why it is negative and to what extent it is affecting the profit and loss account. That need to be reported. Next. The audit memorandum shall also contain schedules. There will be schedule all the time which are appear to the contrary to the provisions of the Act. You must have seen schedule A to E. Various schedules we are giving. So the transactions which appear to be contrary to the provisions of the Act and rules, all sums which ought to have not been accounted in the books of account, all material impropriety or irregularity in the expenditure, any money or property belonging to the society which is appear to the auditor to be bad or doubtful, any other matter specified by the registration in this way. Everything has to be covered in the audit report. 69.7. Summary of the audit memorandum as prepared by the audit shall be read out in the AGM. In the annual general body meeting, you have to give a summary of the audit report. The registrar may from time to time specify the form in which the audit report has to be given, account has to be given. This is also given in the manual. On completion of his statutory audit, the auditor shall award audit classification. This is very important. We have to give an audit reporting classification also. Then Rule 73 talks about on receipt of the order directing the society to rectify the defect issued by the registrar, the society shall submit a rectification of the same to the registrar and the auditor concerned. Audit rectification. Whatever audit observations are there, it has to be rectified, and rectification report in O form has to be given, where auditor also need to give his report. 107A, maximum rates of travelling allowance daily. Of course, this is not much applicable to housing society. Security be furnished by the officers and employees for handling cash. Maximum cash limit which can be there. If you violate, of course, it becomes an offence. Payment to be made by check. All the payments which is under the income tax up to 20,000 is allowed to be spent in cash. So if you are spending more than 20,000 in, more than 20,000 in cash, that need to be reported. So these are the important provisions. Yeah. So you can go back. So these are the important things which I thought are very important for us to go through. This PPT I will share with you. What you can do is you can go through this PPT, these important provisions under the M.C.S. Act which are relevant as far as cooperative society audits are concerned. ठीक है. So in this cooperative, now you may have a lot of practical difficulties or you want to understand certain things. Now for next 15-20 minutes we will discuss as to what are the practical difficulties you are finding in the audit. One by one you can say. Smith, you can, in the housing society audit.
Now, for the act, we need to transfer 25% to reserve fund.
That's correct.
For instance, if a cooperative society has accumulated losses, and in that particular year they have earned certain surplus. So whether we should adjust the entire surplus against the accumulated losses, or we should first transfer 20% to the reserve fund and then adjust that.
Okay, a very good question. See, accumulated losses are there as accumulated losses. Now, when we talk about appropriation of the profit of that particular year, suppose there is an accumulated loss of 10 lakh. Over a period of accumulated losses of the last 10 years, 10 lakhs is there. Now, this year you have made a surplus. Correct? Now, when you have made a surplus this year's surplus, let us say you have made 5 lakh rupees surplus. Now, this 5 lakh surplus is there. Now you don't have to transfer immediately. You will place it in the general body. General body will say, okay, 5 lakhs we have earned this year. Out of that 5 lakhs, 25% of this means 1,25,000. Let us transfer it to statutory reserve. So it will be transferred to the statutory reserve because the profit made during the current year, out of that 25% will be transferred to the general reserve. Okay. Now, our societies, whatever balance sheets we are preparing, I would like to say, I don't know whether you are doing that system or not, but if you are not doing the system, let us try to do that system. Okay. We have seen that appropriation cannot be done unless until it is approved in the general body. Okay. Now, I'll give you an example. So whether it makes sense or not, let us see. Now this is ABC Limited, ABC Cooperative Housing Society Limited. Okay? Now it says profit and loss account for the or income and expenditure account for the year ending 31st March 2022. Okay? Now there is a contribution from the members. Let us say 5 lakhs. Okay? Now there are expenses. Now expenses, let us say 3 lakhs. Now there is a surplus. How much? 2 lakh. Okay? Now I have to appropriate. Now this is 5 lakhs. Okay? Now having received 2 lakh surplus, should I distribute 25% of this 50,000 in this year itself and show net surplus of 1,50,000, or I should carry forward surplus of 2 lakhs? What should I do? I should carry forward in the next year, because in the general body there will be a resolution which will be passed. Out of this 2 lakhs, 25%, that is 50,000 will transfer. Then that 25,000 which I need to transfer from the income and expenditure. समझ में आ गया? So in this next year, 31st March 2023, at that time 50,000 will be transferred from the income and expenditure account to the surplus account. ठीक है? Are you with me? So not this year, because this year we cannot appropriate because the resolution is not passed. So if let us assume in that appropriation will happen in the income and expenditure account. Sorry, balance sheet. In the balance sheet itself it will happen. In the balance sheet of 31st March 2023, there let us say surplus is 2 lakhs, less appropriation 50,000, net is 1,50,000. And current year will be added for the current year. Barabar na? This is how we show. This, if you want to once again visit it, some societies are doing some mistakes, just try to rectify them. ठीक है, ये जरा आप देख लेना. Okay. So therefore, profit for the current year has to be appropriate after passing a resolution in the general body. And one more request: whenever we are doing audit report, if possible, try to work out something called refer the sections and the rules to make it more authentic. See, the person who is reading the audit report also becomes more authentic. See, this is the summary I have made. So as a homework, as I was saying, what are the things that you need to look into? A summary of the provisions that I have just said. 24A corporate education and training. आप क्या करो, when we are preparing audit report, ये जो sections है, rules है, details है, तो इधर एक column बनाओ. Complied, not complied. Not complied, that means you can put straight away in the audit report. Or you want to mention all this in the report itself. You can annexer that this is compliant, this is not compliant. Okay, there is some defects. So that also gives a indication that all these provisions compliance has been looked into. Similarly, you can put certain bylaws. So अभी ये कितना है? Suppose this is only 35 I have put. Okay, there are only 35. Now, if you look at the connected with the bylaws, provisions and all, again if you add bylaws and certain circulars, okay, that may come another 50-55. Total 55 का आपने कॉलम बना दिया, बराबर है? सोसाइटी को बता दिया whether you are compliant or not compliant. Education and training not compliant. मेन रिपोर्ट में डाल देने का और एनेक्सर में वो लिख देने का not compliant. This is compliant. So write down compliant. So let that there so that it becomes a checklist for us. This has not been said by anybody, but that gives us a more authenticity, and for our staff also it becomes easier. So we will be able to touch that. Audit within 4 months किया कि नहीं किया? नहीं किया तो नहीं किया. Then let them give the reasons why they are not done. Audit report shall have whatever shall have the whether compliant, not compliant, all that you can just look at the sections. Iska sections. So therefore, this Word file and PPT I will share with you, so that can be circulated to your members, and see that you write it down in a notebook, so you will understand. Any other thing practically? Can you classify tenant ownership, then tenant co-partnership and other housing? Now the housing society has been classified into basically these 3 categories, and this has been given under section 154B-1 definition. In the definition it has been given. Okay, you don't have the, you have? No, no? ठीक है, जाने. Okay. So under section 154B-1, the types of society have been defined. Now these are the 3 types of society which has been defined in the Act. Now basically he wants to understand what is the meaning of tenant ownership. Naresh, you are the advocate, you can just give what is tenant ownership, because these are very important when we deal with the legal provisions, because fundamental come from the definitions. So in the first place you are saying the members are the owner of the building, and in the second place you are saying members are the occupier of the flat. So how you differentiate owner and occupier? Other type of societies like mortgage societies, then there is a premises society, commercial societies. That is the other type of housing society. Okay, that is a very simple. Premises society comes under the other types of housing societies. Okay, where there is the more than 50% of the units, are having other than housing, then they come under the other type of society. More than 50% is a housing society, flats, residential, then they come under the housing society A and B. ठीक है ना? Now, can you give some example? Tenant ownership. Have you come across anywhere tenant ownership society? Now, what happens in the case of tenant ownership? The word indicates ownership. So, but at the same time he is a tenant. Tenant means it is not the live and license or something like otherwise, but here tenant, he is a tenant for the land, tenant for the land, but owner for the building, not the flat, building. He is a owner for his apartment. He is a owner for his apartment, and therefore that society will not touch his apartment at all. It will not touch his building at all. He will not touch, the society will not touch the building. Building is owned by whom? Member. Building is owned by the member, and he is a tenant for the land. For example, he has rightly pointed out, in a case of a bungalow type of society, if this is the land is, let us say, ABC CHS Limited is the owner of the land. Let us say this is the land of 2 acres, that is 80,000 square feet. ठीक है ना? So this is the land. Now in this land, let us say they make 8 bungalows. There is a road, common road. This is a road. ठीक है ना? And there are 8 bungalows. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now, if this is the type of society where this land is owned by whom? Society. Society is the owner of the land. Whereas bungalow number 1, that is a building. Who is the owner of that bungalow 1? Member. It is a responsible building. Bungalow number 1 is requiring repairs. Who will carry out the repair? He himself will do. If tomorrow if it falls, who will repair it? He will repair. And he gets the land from the society on a lease basis. ठीक है? So he gets the land on lease basis and he becomes the owner of his own bungalow, where the society will not do anything. In that case, this is called tenant ownership. कोई डाउट? कोई शक? अभी समझ में आ गया? Tenant ownership is where the land is owned by the society and the people get the land in the form of lease. It can be perpetual lease, 99 years lease, 999 years lease, whatever they lease. They may charge the lease rent, may not charge the lease rent, but they will be on the lease. The society owns the land. ठीक है? Clear now?
Even though there is lease, there will not be any kind of agreement. Being a member, it is
No, there will be lease agreement. The society will enter into a lease agreement with that member. Otherwise, without lease agreement, how it is possible? There has to be lease agreement. A lease is a transaction carried out under the Transfer of Property Act. The moment it is a Transfer of Property Act, there has to be lease deed. So the society enters into lease deed. ठीक है? But there are certain situations where the builder, say, makes the plots and he is owning the plot. Entire land is owned by the builder and he gives agreement to lease. He makes a agreement to lease and he says the land will be transferred to the society. Society will enter into lease deed. In that case, once the society is formed, they have to make a lease deed. ठीक है? This is tenant ownership. Tenant co-partnership is where we have a regular housing society, where land is owned by the society, building is also owned by the society. Carrying out the repairing, renovation, inside the flat वो member करेगा, but outside the flat, common area, everything is done by the society. Here, the land and building is owned by the society. That is tenant co-partnership. Where, as Nareshji has rightly pointed out, you get an occupancy right in a flat. Of course, that occupancy is nothing but inherently owner, but you are a member of the society. Being a member of the society, you get the right to occupy the flat and it is deemed to have been allotted to you. ठीक है? अभी मालूम पड़ा? Other type of society is very simple, where there is a premises society, mortgage society. ठीक है? This is always, and people always say tenant, we are not tenant, we are owner. Why tenant co-partnership? All this भाडे तत्वावर का असलेला जातात. So it becomes very difficult to explain, but we have to say this is how the act is made. Shivani, understood the difference? What is the difference between now tenant ownership and tenant co-partnership? बट आपको बोलना है कि उसका प्रिंट आउट निकाल के आप सर्टिफाइड करके दीजिए, क्योंकि कितना भी बड़ा सोसाइटी हो आपको वो एक प्रिंट आउट निकाल के रखना जरूरी है. हर साल में जब भी आपका ट्रांसफ़र होता है, ये होता है, वो पर्टिकुलर पेज आप ऐड ऑन करके आप उसको ऐड कर दीजिए. कम से कम प्रिंट आउट निकाल के एक फाइल तो बना दो, बिकॉज डिजिटल है, डिजिटल कभी गायब हो जाता है, पता नहीं है. द नो डाउट इट इज़ परमिटेड, बट देयर इज़ नो सच सिस्टम. जैसा अभी प्राइवेट लिमिटेड कंपनी में डीमैट होता है या पब्लिक लिमिटेड कंपनी में डीमैट होती है, तो डीमैट का एजेंसी अलग है, शेयर रजिस्टर अलग है. ऐसा कोई इधर गवर्नमेंट एजेंसी नहीं है. इसके लिए डिजिटलाइजेशन उन्होंने अपना किधर भी रखा होगा, वो डिजिटलाइजेशन का कोई ऑथेंटिसिटी होता नहीं, उधर कोई सिग्नेचर, डिजिटल सिग्नेचर वगैरह होता नहीं. इसके लिए आपको बोलना है आप कंप्यूटराइज कर रहे हो, सॉफ्ट कॉपी कर रहे हो, सब मान्य है. लेकिन एज एन ऑडिटर it is my requirement that you have to take the printout, certified by the chairman, secretary, treasurer, keep it in the record. I need to certify it and let it be there. Every year आपको उसको करना है, तो एक बार वो एक्सरसाइज आपको करना है. आप डिजिटल नहीं करेंगे ऐसा नहीं है, डिजिटल करके प्रिंट आउट निकाल के रखो. ध्यान में आया? आप लोग देखते कि नहीं देखते मालूम नहीं है, वो देखना जरूरी है.
वन मोर क्वेश्चन कि जो जे रजिस्टर हम लोग बनाते हैं, वो वहाँ पे एक साइड में रिमार्क रहता है. रिमार्क में हम लोग कभी कभी हर एक सोसाइटी में अलग अलग हिसाब से रजिस्टर्स प्रिपेयर करते हैं. कहाँ पे रोमन नंबर लिखते हैं, रोमन नंबर 1, रोमन नंबर 2, और कहीं कहीं पे लिखते हैं कि ये प्राइमरी है, एसोसिएट मेंबर है. तो हम लोग टाइप ऑफ मेंबर, तो हम लोग कैसा वो चेक कर सकते हैं?
ओके, तो जैसा अभी आपका बॉस ने पूछा कि मुझे फाउंडेशन बताओ, टेनेंट ओनरशिप और टेनेंट को पार्टनरशिप एंड अदर टाइप ऑफ सोसाइटी का ब्रेकअप बताओ. ठीक है ना? अभी कितने साल से ऑडिट कर रहे हो? 10 साल, ज़्यादा हो गया. तो तभी भी अपने को मतलब क्लैरिटी नहीं था, है बट क्लैरिटी नहीं है. ठीक है? अभी सोसाइटी में, हाउसिंग सोसाइटी में 4 प्रकार का मेंबर्स है. अभी देर आर 4 टाइप्स. अर्लियर देर वर 3 टाइप्स, नाउ देर आर 4 टाइप्स. ये कौन सा मालूम है आपको? कभी आपका बॉस ने बताया नहीं? हाँ बताया? चलो आप बताओ. चलो अभी कौन सा 4 टाइप्स ऑफ मेंबर्स है? चलो ये एक मिनट. अभी वो सोचेगा. चलो कौन सा? सी अर्लियर आई विल टेल यू द डेट. 9th March 2019 is the cutoff date. Up to 8th March 2019, there were 3 types of members. Okay, in CHS. Now there are 4 types in CHS. Okay. Earlier 3 types of members कौन थे? आप मत बोलो.
नॉमिनल मेंबर.
नहीं पहला
मेंबर.
ओके. देन
नॉमिनल मेंबर.
ओके. देन
एसोसिएट मेंबर.
ओके. ओके. और इधर अभी 4 टाइप्स हो गए.
शेयर होल्डर मेंबर.
ओके.
एसोसिएट मेंबर.
ओके.
nominal and joint member.
क्या?
A nominal member
हाँ,
or joint member.
ओके, और हो गया? Okay. Nominal member is not there now. Now there is a provisional member. So, a shareholder member नहीं member. Member means shareholder. So, we have member and member. There is no problem now. Member is a person who is owning the flat and whose name the shares are issued. He is a member. Whose name stands first in the share certificate is a member. Now there is a joint member. When the property is owned jointly, the second person is called a joint member. Third person is called a joint member. That is joint membership. There are 12 relatives whom admit as an associate member. They need not be the owner of the property, but they should be relative of the member. The member can appoint 12 relatives. Who are the 12 relatives? Husband, wife, father, mother, brother, sister, son, daughter, nephew and niece, son-in-law and daughter-in-law. So like this, 6 pair, 12 people. So if those only 12 people can be appointed as an associate member by an application made by the member. Associate member will make an application recommended by the member. Okay, he pays only 100 rupees entrance fees. He need not be the owner of the property. Provisional member is the person who is a nominee of the deceased member. On the death of the member, he applies for the membership till he gets the legal heirship certificate. He is considered as a provisional member. So this is how 4 types of members are there. And in J form, now you have to see whether he is a member or share register में उसका entry है नहीं है. Whether he is a associate member है तो उसका application है क्या, कौन सा जनरल मैनेजिंग कमेटी में उसका पास हुआ, उसका अलग से रजिस्टर मेंटेन करने को बोलने का. ठीक है, वैसे प्रोविजनल मेंबर का तो वो आपको आई फॉर्म रजिस्टर में मालूम पड़ेगा प्रोविजनल मेंबर है. नॉमिनेशन रजिस्टर से उसको मेंबरशिप दिया तो प्रोविजनल मेंबर है. जॉइंट मेंबर है तो उसका नाम सेकंड इन द शेयर सर्टिफिकेट रहता है. सो दिस इज हाउ द क्लासिफिकेशन ऑफ मेंबर इज डन. एंड इन द जे फॉर्म द classification is given, member and the classification, बराबर ना. So that is how it is done. See, the question is, when you are selling the flat, you are not only selling the flat, you are also selling or transferring the shares. When you are transferring the shares, you are transferring the shares along with the right, title, interest in the society. Suppose you have deposited sinking fund, you have deposited repair fund, you have done so many things. But those funds, once it is given to the society, you cannot take it back. Unless until the society passes a uniform resolution to refund everybody. In the case of a redevelopment, when the society goes for the redevelopment and when they are reoccupied, at that time they pass a resolution. The existing sinking fund, repair fund will distribute to the members. That can be distribution is possible. Okay? Suppose, just an example, if I am got share capital, entrance fees, plus I have got sinking fund contributed, let us say 2 lakh rupees in the society in the last 10 years. Now, if I want that refund, then somebody has to recoup that. That means new purchaser has to put in. When new purchaser is giving you as against 2 lakh rupees flat or 10 lakh rupees flat, 2 lakh rupees you are this one, 2 crore रुपया वो दे रहा है. So that 2 crore is not only for the value of the flat, he is also giving for the accumulated reserves in the flat. So therefore it is not possible. समझ गया? ऐसा कुछ आपने इन्वेस्ट किया है क्या? आपका फ्लैट होगा. हाँ. हाँ, फ्यूचर में लेके मैं बचाऊं. नहीं होता है भाई. एक बार आपने फ्लैट बेच दिया, फ्लैट के साथ आप शेयर्स देते हो, शेयर्स के साथ अपना कैपिटल राइट टाइटल इंटरेस्ट देते हो. हाँ, कौन ये ना? नहीं, एज एन ऑडिटर, if there is a transfer, He is right. If there is a transfer, as an auditor, whenever the transfer is happening, should I report that these are the accumulated reserves as on that date? Okay. Now, for that, I'll just tell you that is rule number 23. Just निकालो rule number 23. 1 minute, I'll come. बंद किया क्या? बंद हो गया लगता है. चलो ठीक है, फिर जाने दो. I'll just explain it. I'll come. Coming to the question, see, leave aside the housing society for the time being. Huh? What is the purpose of a society, cooperative society, any cooperative society, where 10 or more people come together to do an economic activity, business activity for the benefit of the members. For example, now there are 10 people who have come together. ठीक है ना? Once you have come together, you have started, let us say, a credit society. Okay? You have started credit society, 500 people have come together, started a credit society. Everybody has contributed, let us say 1000. So 500 people have contributed, let us say 500 plus. So becomes 5 lakh rupees. Now, over a period of 10 years, you have generated the reserves. Let us say 5 crores. बराबर है? So, the now net owned fund of the society is 5 crores, 5 lakh rupees. ठीक है ना? बराबर है ना? Now, that means, what is the value of one share now? The value of one share is approximately कितना हो गया? 50,000 रुपीज. हाँ, क्योंकि 50,000 एक शेयर का वैल्यू समझो 10 रुपीज. ओके, 10 रुपीज इज द वैल्यू ऑफ द शेयर. ओके, और 100 रुपीज, लेट अस से 100 रुपीज इज द वैल्यू ऑफ द शेयर. 100 रुपीज गया तो देयर आर हाउ मच शेयर्स नाउ? 5000. तो इसको हम 5000 से डिवाइड करेंगे तो कितना हो गया? 101. ये तो गया ना? तो 10,100 रुपीज. समझ में आया? दिस इज क्लियर. 5 लाख रुपए टोटल, 5000 लोगों ने डाला, 5 करोड़ रुपया बेनिफिट हुआ लास्ट 10 ईयर्स में. देन नाउ दिस इज 5 करोड़, 5 लाख रुपीज पर वैल्यू पर शेयर एज अगेंस्ट 100 रुपीज शेयर. नाउ इट इज बिकम 10,100 रुपीज. नाउ यू डिसाइड टू withdraw. Now you decide to withdraw because you decided. So now I have left Maharashtra. I have gone to Bangalore and I have settled there. Now why should I continue? Now you have, let us say, 100 shares, wherein you had invested 10,000 rupees. Out of 5 lakh rupees, you had invested 10 lakh rupees. 100 shares tha. Now 10 lakh rupees. Now how much you are entitled to refund? Now you are, this is regular society, बराबर ना? Where the net owned fund is per share 10,100 rupees. Whether you will get 100 shares which you have invested, 100 into 10,100, or you will get only 100 into 100 rupees. How much you should get? 100 shares into multiplied by 10,100. That is what you want. Okay. That is not the case. That is not the case. In the cooperative society, you have come together for a common purpose. When I say common purpose, you have come for a common purpose. Common purpose means to do the economic activity together. If there is any surplus, that surplus will remain with the society. The member is not entitled. So what you get is whatever you have invested. समझ में आया? तो आपको 10,000 एक नहीं मिलेगा। यदि ऐसा सोसाइटी में नहीं मिलता है तो हाउसिंग सोसाइटी में आपने सिंकिंग फंड, रिपेयर फंड डाला है, वो सरप्लस है तो सरप्लस सोसाइटी में रहेगा। आपने 500 रुपये शेयर कैपिटल डाला है, वो शेयर मनी 500 रुपये आप रिफंड ले सकते हो, लेकिन आप रिफंड नहीं ले रहे हो। आप क्या बोल रहे हो, वो 500 रुपीज शेयर जो है आप ट्रांसफर करो, ऊपर से आप 25,000 सोसाइटी को देते हो ट्रांसफर फी। 500 का शेयर ट्रांसफर करने के लिए ऊपर से 25,000 भी देते हो आप। ध्यान में आया ना? सो देयरफॉर you are not entitled to any. Now why I am saying this? This is given under rule number 23. अच्छा, just before going to rule number 23, now I will ask you. 5 lakh rupees share है, मान लो for a minute there is a loss, accumulated loss. ठीक है ना? accumulated loss कितना है? Let us say 4,95,000 लॉस हो गया। नाउ ओनली नेट वैल्यू इज ओनली 5,000। नाउ हाउ मच यू विल गेट? You will get the net worth of the share or the face value of the share, whichever is less. Whichever is higher नहीं है, whichever is less. अभी इधर 5,000 डिवाइडेड बाय आपका इधर कितना था शेयर? 10,000 शेयर था क्या? नहीं, 5,000 था ना, 5,000 था। सो दैट मीन्स यू विल गेट एज अगेंस्ट 100 रुपीज, नाउ यू विल गेट ओनली 1 रुपी। 100 रुपीज के सामने, 100 शेयर के सामने तुमको प्रॉफिट है, सोसाइटी रखेगी, लॉस है, मेंबर को ट्रांसफर करेगी। दिस इज कोऑपरेटिव सोसाइटीज। रूल नंबर 23 आप पढ़ लेना, चाहिए तो मैं एक बार पढ़ के बताता हूं। मैंने सोचा ये सवाल नहीं आएगा करके मैंने उसको लिया ही नहीं। अभी तुम पूछा तो बताना पड़ेगा, नहीं तो सर गलत बोल रहा है ऐसा बोलेगा तुम। रूल नंबर 23, हाँ, वैल्यूएशन ऑफ शेयर्स। नेट वर्थ मीन्स पेड अप शेयर कैपिटल प्लस द एक्यूमुलेटेड रिजोर्स अनऑडिटेड, बराबर ना, एंड कैरिड फॉरवर्ड एनी लॉस, एक्यूमुलेटेड लॉस, शॉर्टफॉल, ठीक है ना। दिस इज हाउ द वैल्यूएशन ऑफ शेयर इज डन लाइक दिस, एंड you will be refunded under rule number 23 whatever is on the last audited balance sheet. मान लो you are giving a refund in the month of April 2022, March 2022, बराबर ना, लास्ट ऑडिटेड, यदि ऑडिट हुआ है तो, नहीं है तो उसका ऑडिट है तो 31 मार्च 2021 का है तो 2021 लास्ट ऑडिटेड जो है उसका जो वैल्यूएशन है, एक्यूमुलेटेड रिजर्व ये वगैरह निकाल के वैल्यू और फेस वैल्यू whichever is less will be given as a refund, ठीक है। so therefore member will not get the this one, ठीक है। rule number 23. next, any other questions? otherwise today we will conclude. और कुछ है?
So one last question.
yeah,
So
ले माइक ले।
ऑडिट करने के लिए हम लोग बहुत फेस होते हैं कि एनओसी चार्ज हम लोग को 10% ऑफ मेंटेनेंस लेना पड़ता है, बट बहुत सारे सोसाइटी में वो लोग इंश्योरेंस के ऊपर भी 10% लेते हैं और रिपेयर फंड ये सब चीज भी इंक्लूड करते हैं। तो आप एक्चुअली प्रॉपर बताइए कि एनओसी चार्ज 10% ऑफ व्हाट, मतलब
10% ऑफ द सर्विस चार्ज बोला है। व्हाट इज सर्विस चार्ज इज गिवन इन द बायलॉ नंबर 66, यू हैव टू गो बाय दैट ओनली। सो सर्विस चार्ज डज नॉट इंक्लूड ऑल अदर थिंग्स, इंश्योरेंस, एनए टैक्स, प्रॉपर्टी टैक्स, ऑल दिस शुड बी एक्सक्लूडेड। व्हाट इज गिवन इज सर्विस चार्जेस, इवन रिपेयर्स एंड मेंटेनेंस भी इंक्लूडेड नहीं होना चाहिए, ठीक है। Yeah.
What is the criteria for classification for society giving audit classification?
That we'll discuss next time. We'll have to look into the 4 parameters that we'll discuss. So next time, I would request whenever we are going to have, maybe 3rd December, I'm not there. So that will be following December, 10th December. 10th December when we have a class, by that time 15 days you have, whatever provisions I have given today, that PPT will be circulated. आप circulate कर दो. अल्पेश मेरे से PPT लेके circulate करो. Once I give you the PPT, okay, I request you to write down those in your diary. 15 दिन आपके पास है. ऑफिस में नहीं लिखने का, घर में जाके लिखने. इट इज़ अ होमवर्क, ऑफिस वर्क नहीं है. हाँ, ओके. तो वो पकड़ लेना किसी कोई करता है, सीसी कैमरा भी है, ठीक है. एंड यू विल वेरीफाई वेदर एवरीबडी, अकाउंट्स डिपार्टमेंट, यू विल वेरीफाई वेदर एवरीबडी हैज डन और नॉट. 10 दिसंबर तक 15 दिन में आप इतना प्रोविजंस, जो 35 प्रोविजंस मैंने बोला ना, वो लिख के निकालो. इट इज जस्ट बिकॉज दैट इज हाउ वी नीड टू लुक इन टू. एंड नेक्स्ट टाइम व्हाट वी विल डू इज वी विल लुक एट what are the documents to be obtained for the audit. There is format A to S. What are those formats? What are the things to be looked into? Then we'll see the reporting and all that later on. Because I will not ask you to study the audit manual today, but next, maybe after 7-8 lectures, we'll also see what part of the audit manual also need to be looked into. But इतना आप ध्यान रखना, audit manual है, ठीक है. एक कॉपी इधर रख दो, है ना. चलो, ओके, थैंक यू वेरी मच. तो किसी को दिखाया नहीं तुमने, एक बार दिखा दो. अभी पूछना नहीं रहता है, देना रहता है.